Hello, everybody, and welcome again to a lovely edition of Wise Up from Wise Components. I'm your host, Anthony Romeo, talking with Luke Getto from VoltServer today. Um, Luke, thank you again for joining the show because this is the second time you dare come onto this
Mhm.
podcast. As our podcast is really all about, what's going on with the Kardashians, P. Diddy, and something about skinning cats. Not really. Um, for those of you who continue to listen and like us and comment on Spotify or any way that you stream your podcasts and like us on social media, we greatly appreciate it. Keep it up. Our podcast is not about keeping up with the Kardashians, but rather understanding what's behind the walls, beneath our feet, behind the walls, what's keeping us all connected in this crazy world that we're living in. Staying connected is so important. Could you imagine walking in today's society without the use of your cell phone? Oh my God, right? Or not being able to do a Zoom call and actually having to go into the office? Heavens to Betsy.
Mm.
So many of our guests have graciously appeared on WiseUP Podcast for the last 5 years now, talking to us about the wonderful infrastructure or design services or how managed services works with smart buildings, data center, and every industry. So Luke Getto's here from the company called VoltServer, and he's going to talk to us today about what's digital electricity, what's FMPS, a couple other things, class two, and all these other acronyms he's going to throw and at us, and we're going to get confused. No, we're going to have a good, lighthearted conversation. And Luke, without further ado, welcome back.
Well, thank you very much for having me back, Anthony. Glad to be here. So,
So,
uh, so yeah, so I, here, happy to be on. Really, like you said, talking about Class 4 fault managed power systems, or FMPS for short. This is something new that the NEC, adopted in their latest code edition 2023, Article 726. It calls out fault managed power systems, right? So it's a new article, a new way of deploying power. And so I just want, I'm kind of out there just kind of educating people. What does it mean? What can it mean for my business, my building, etc.
so
So
safety, I would think, is paramount with managed power systems. I mean, I know walking job sites, I've seen electricians where, two are on site with a circuit breaker and one of them has a 2x4 in hand. That's not because he's angry. It's because in the event of a power surge, you could
mhm.
slap that board across your mate, right?
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about the safety measures that FMPS could bring to the
Sure.
table.
So, like you said, there's electricity, can be dangerous, right? Whether you're, a homeowner, renter, or even a licensed journeyman electrician, right? Unfortunately, electricity is dangerous and people can get harmed, die, buildings can light on fire. And what we're all about, is really making a safe power distribution system. And so we've been doing that for since about 2015. We've been commercial, deploying our digital electricity system, which is listed under Class 2, which is just like power over Ethernet. They call it a limited power source because it can only, put out so much power that can be dissipated into a fault. So a fault could be, you touch it, a short circuit, arc, or something like that. So, it's really about preventing all those possible, dangerous, aspects of AC
Aspects, yeah.
power. So, a lot of people familiar with power over Ethernet, great technology. It's combining power and data into a single cable. You can go pretty far, get a good amount of power. But it's kind of limited. The standards are limited to 100 meters. There's a couple of products out there that go a bit further, but it's also limited to about 100 watts, right? So you start at 100, and the further you go out with your device, the less power you have. So what we're doing is we're delivering, hundreds of watts per pair of conductors out to the edge. So we typically get paired with fiber. So power over Ethernet, copper conductors make sense for data and
Right.
power over short distances. fiber is a high bandwidth, long distance technology. And, digital electricity is a high power, long distance technology. So
Now,
for
how long?
applications, yeah.
So I know you said this is new from a couple different ways, fault mounted power systems, but fault managed power systems. So say it a couple of times, I'll remember. Um, that side of the digital electricity and VoltServer, what you're bringing to the table is somewhat new, as you pointed out, through also codes that have been recently ratified. But how long has VoltServer and maybe some of your competitors out there been doing this? Because the
Yeah.
traditional electrical panels been over 100 years.
Yeah.
If it's not broke, why try to fix it, right? So
hmm
how long have you been doing this? First question.
So the company was founded in 2011 and we went
Mhm.
commercial in 2015. And then, kind of what we've been talking about is, we're the key aspect of it is the safety, right?
Right.
The platform and the technology is designed to prevent ground faults, arc faults. Well, not prevent, I shouldn't say, to mitigate
Mitigate,
those
right.
faults, right? Like shock faults, line to ground, arc resistive faults, all those kind of things. So instead of limiting the power out of your supply and saying, all right, this supply can no longer deliver enough power to harm somebody, the supply can be much, much higher in output power, but it manages the faults to make sure they are safe. So that if anything happens, to the wire or anything like that, there's the power is cut off, within milliseconds. So even though you're transmitting, a high voltage DC, high power signal, the amount of energy that, if you grab those wires is like a strong static shock, right? It's not going to be pleasant if you grab onto it, but it's not going to electrocute you and it can't start a fire. So those are the important points as that, obviously there's
So
a lot written in the NEC around safety, right? I think the whole document's about safety, but
yeah, well, safety is paramount, and also not to be cold-hearted, but it is then also combines with risk and liability. And
mhm.
people have insurance policies for a reason. If you can help mitigate the cost of that, that's also something that people, operators and owners tend to look at.
Mhm.
You had mentioned before when you started talking about digital electricity and fault managed power system. I'm gonna get it, I know. Um, that it's not only in commercial space but residential as well. What sectors or verticals do you find to be most useful? Or because I said the traditional way of doing it's over 100 years. You've been doing this for a decade, but where are you seeing success today? Is my question with
Sure.
your offering.
So the places where we've seen a lot of success are, telecom up things like 5G overlays, stadiums, buildings, places like that. Hey, I'm pulling in a whole new network, into this brownfield building, and it's got to
Mm,
be entirely separate from everything else, and it's all overlaid. And now we got to get power and data out to all these locations. And to do it the traditional way, you got to put, armored cable or pipe and wire out to these locations for power because they can't be powered with PoE. They're too, hundreds or thousands of watts. And then the data going out is fiber. So you got two separate pathways, two different people installing it to go to the same location. And the benefit is you get a hybrid fiber cable, and now you have power and data wherever you want it for the best coverage and capacity, not where it's convenient to put those. The other place is kind of the IT space, smart buildings, smart factories, powering PoE switches. Same kind of thing. Those PoE switches, very power hungry. You want to put them close to your edge devices. So we kind of enable that fiber to the edge. You can put your PoE switches closer to your edge devices, and we can power that whole PoE switch and bring you power and data. You can put it
interesting.
in an IDF closet or you can put it anywhere. You're no
So
longer limited to your telecom closets.
so you mentioned intelligent buildings, and that brings up a good point. And many of the guests that I've had on, as well as if you Google it, Local Law 97 has came up in conversation many times. As many of the folks that have listened to this podcast, as well as you, are probably familiar with Local Law 97
Hmm.
to help reduce energy, or I should say, improve upon energy efficiencies within buildings over 25,000 square feet. Local Law 97 is the code or law that has gone in effect in 2019 in the state of New York. I'm sure there's other states that have a different name for it. But in my limited knowledge, because it's not that big, I know that it's called Local Law 97. So how does that impact, being that you mentioned that it goes out to the edge device and you can manage power? Um, if you don't mind, just
Yeah,
break it down a little bit for us.
sure. So what we have is our system has two parts. It has what we call our power transmitter and a power receiver. The power transmitter gets plugged into, your typical AC circuits, and then it converts it to digital electricity. Digital electricity gets sent over the structured cables to the receiver, and the receiver converts it back to AC or DC, depending what the load needs. And that digital electricity is, it's either class 2 or class 4. We're going to have two separate systems for that. And, it basically is giving us, the power you'd expect from AC, but with Ethernet like wiring practices, right? It's not Cat 6 cable, it's more like speaker wire, but, you're basically able to deploy power into locations that may have been difficult or impossible before. For both class 2 and class 4, unlike line voltage or class 1, they can share pathways with each other and other datacom signals. So Ethernet, AV, fiber, things like that. They don't have to be in dedicated conduit. Most of the time, they don't need to be in conduit at all. So some of the things, this helps with is the speed of deployment. I know the electrical trade, is a little bit overwhelmed, right? That you got an aging workforce with not a lot of new people joining. But the demand for electricity is going up. You mentioned that local law 97, right? And I know a big part of that is converting from gas over to electric, right? But some
Right.
of the problems in these large MDUs is they don't have the power capacity to power up, a heat pump or an induction stove or things like that. Their electrical panels maxed out, right? So what are you going to do? You're going to have to upgrade, the entire building's electrical infrastructure to give everyone a heat pump. That's a massive undertaking, right? And they could be old buildings, poking through core bores. That could be pretty difficult, disrupted to your tenants. You can run, your power up your trash chute now and, bring it out and add some power to each of these rooms. You have other options, for adding electrical capacity to your facility, that are quicker to get done, which helps with
Mhm.
the labor, less people on the job and less things to manage, and getting your job up and running, right? From a system integrator perspective, you want to get the job done and move on to your next one, right? You don't want to have to be
Now,
waiting around.
uh, you bring up a great topic of discussion or a fight. I know with low voltage lighting, it's been a little bit of a back and forth, and in the state of New York or state of Illinois or Massachusetts with very strong unions, it's always been a question of, well, we've done it this way for so long and it's worked. Why are we going to buck the system, right? Um, are you seeing some of that with what you're deploying? Are there any hesitation with?
I would say it's coming down for some of those reasons I said. I've been out talking to members of the IBEW, and when I come in and say, "Oh, you don't need to do pipe and wire," like I kind of expect to get something thrown at me, right? But there are
Somebody's
some,
gonna check your
right?
car.
Yeah. So, there are some people that are like, "Hey, like I do what I do, and that's what I do." But I feel
Right.
that the industry, with more and more PoE and low voltage stuff coming out. There's just a high demand for it for lots of reasons, right? Cost, ESG, time to deployment, those kind of things that companies are worried about and they're willing to invest in it. And if you are, hey, I only do panels, well, you're going to
Yeah.
miss out on that opportunity, right? Not I
Well, agree.
see, right?
I mean,
The yeah.
it's not just your product. If you think about it from the green initiative standpoint and the energy efficiency of your product running a building much more efficient, but the pipe and wire. the reduction of the steel on the ceiling,
Yeah.
that's, if everybody truly is focused on, the green initiatives, I mean, you're limiting the amount of steel that's going into the structure.
Hmm.
Ding, 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 the light bulb should go off, the low voltage light bulb. But nonetheless, these buildings are such energy hogs, right? And in addition to buildings, office buildings and residential buildings, there's data centers, which are also energy hogs, right? Have you worked in your time with VoltServer? Have you worked in the data center market?
So we have not yet, but we're approaching it
Okay.
shortly with our new platform. We're going to be, approaching thousands of watts per pair of
Hmm.
conductors. So a data center, you're talking about megawatts of power.
Right.
You're not talking about low voltage lighting, right? You're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
heavy
Oh,
duty server
absolutely.
racks, right? So we worked with a company called Southland Industries. They're a data center integrator, and they did a white paper looking at, deploying digital electricity versus 480 AC, and a conservative estimate would be about a 30% capex savings. Not to mention they would have space savings because they'd be able to eliminate those keep out areas around the AC. It's more flexible, so when AI 2.0 comes out, that they need to reconfigure all their data centers, they don't have to move all that fixed infrastructure. They can simply reroute the wires.
Right.
So yeah, so we're approaching it, with our new platform coming out soon. We're pretty excited about it. I think it's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, sounds terrific. So if I was a person that was listening to Wise Up podcasts, streaming on Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, and I wanted to learn more about Volt Server, where would I go besides your website? Or
Sure.
if I go to your website, where should I be looking on the website?
Yeah, so we have an education platform on our website. We've launched a few courses with introductory information about Class 4 digital electricity, and pretty shortly we're going to be launching a certified training curriculum. So, you'll be able to design, install, maintain digital electricity systems, just like other companies, have their certified installers and things like that. So that'll be launching soon. And I've been working on it. Lots of slides for those trainings, but very
Yeah.
detailed and things like that. And in the meantime, we have a team of solution engineers that design all the systems for people and say, look, we get this is new, it's different. We'll help you out, give you the bomb. You go figure it out and determine if you want it or not. So we offer that value added service to try to engage people and say, look, it can be done, but we get that it's new, it's different, and it'll take a while before everyone kind of gets it.
Right. Well, I'm glad that you mentioned about the certification because I was going to ask you, you talk to, if you're talking to the IBEW, if you're talking to NECA and Bixie and all these other organizations, that's usually a conversation that comes up because ownership of the design and implementation becomes a factor in every project. So is it the MEP consultant? Is it the IT consultant? Is it the, you're overlapping with what you're proposing, not in a
Hmm.
bad way. It's a good
Yeah.
thing, but I'm sure there's going to be some a little bit of back and forth. And the fact that you're providing a certification course is huge, in my opinion, if I may.
Thanks.
um, no, I think it's terrific what you've proposed and put together in such a short time and in a market that's been saturated with the AC world, of thinking for so many years. It's not like you're just trying to create something here. You created something that is definitely addressing challenges that we face in our everyday lives. So again, with Vault Server being able, whether it be from a safety constraint concern to help mitigate risk, um, liabilities and insurances, more energy efficiencies into the buildings, um, cost of operation. I mean, all these things sound wonderful.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's not like people aren't going to pay penalty and fine if they don't do anything to address these things even in the legacy buildings.
Hmm.
In Greenfield, you go, oh, great, yes, let's do it. In existing infrastructure that's predates World War II, it becomes some challenges. I would say you would agree, no?
Yeah, no, the quote I like to use is by 2050, 80% of the buildings that will exist already have been built. So, we need solutions for the building stock that's out there today. Yeah, build a new building. You can make it super energy efficient, right? When you have a blank canvas, right? But you look at a building that was built in the 70s, who knows? Does it have asbestos and lead
Right.
paint? Or does it have telecom closets? Probably not. Probably just has closets, right? So these are challenges, we have to figure out. Everybody's kind of moved over to the LED lighting, right? So everybody's kind of, reduced their energy consumption by that, low hanging fruit. And now we got to just go deeper. If we want to make, use electricity more efficiently in every space, electricity rates are not going down, right? They're
Right.
definitely going up. So, all those things that the benefit is the aggregate, overall reduction in your energy use and control over your energy and things like that. um, Makes it, an intelligent platform that you can use, to enhance your building.
Well said. Folks, again, I'm talking with Luke Getto from VoltServer. Well, he came and came in and crushed it on digital electricity. His company, VoltServer, is empowering the future of electricity distribution through digital innovation, truly. Um, Luke, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today on WiseUP Podcast. I do encourage folks to take a look at their website at voltserver.com. All the links and will be in our show notes, so do check it out. And again, you can follow them on social media as well as check out their newsletters and other support that they have coming up in events and resources, as Luke had pointed out, the certification courses and other application guides on VoltServer. Luke, thanks again.
Thank you, Anthony.